up, if I'm not replenishing them, i.e. eating, taking care of myself, body goes into resistance. This stage gets dominated by cortisol. Now, we're under normal circumstances, like if it's a stress that's just really quick, okay, these occur very quickly and the body's done, okay? If the stressor becomes chronic, for example, think you have your dream job. Life's great. And then, boss is like, okay, we got to do it this way. And you're thinking, I don't want to do it that way. I don't like this way. And then that happens again, and again, and again. And now every day that you're going to work, you're feeling a little more, okay? You're feeling that, like, you know, the knot in the stomach, and you're like, and you're thinking, I can't do this, and you start getting headaches, and you're not sleeping good, and you're not eating right, and you're under some chronic stress. That's when the body's, because you're under chronic stress, it's going, okay, I'm not getting what I need, so now I'm going to start resisting. Cortisol is one that begins to get released, and usually under chronic stress, you tend to, like, maybe gain weight, eat stuff you shouldn't eat, blah, 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 and it's going to look for alternative fuels. Some people don't eat under stress, okay? Things are still going to happen, okay? And eventually, if you continue to stay under that stress, which is what happens a lot of times for people in jobs, because they end up, you know, getting married, having the kids, having the house, having the car payment, insurance payments, tax, all this sort of stuff, okay? And they're like, I don't have a choice. Life, okay? Body begins to break down. It begins to go into a stage of exhaustion. Stores for energy are depleted. Stress has overwhelmed that system. Blood pressures, the release of the hormones, the use of all our materials for feeding the stress. Begin to see your health decline. People who are under chronic stress begin to see blood pressure problems. They begin to see cardiovascular issues. They may begin to see GI issues. Okay? Why? The body's breaking down. Eventually, we get to a point, other things have begun to take place so much, body can't handle it, the body just breaks down and says, I'm done. Stress can kill, and this is why. So, that's the only reaction that our body knows to stress. It doesn't know anything else. Now, some other things that are going to come along with our hormones. We're going to be coming back to these as we move forward into the other chapters that we're going into, because we're going to come across this term, eicosanoids, again. All that's telling us is where this particular hormone is coming from. It deals with the omega fatty acids, okay? But don't get too deep into that, all right? Just remember that term because we're going to see it again. And then we're going to find that we have these other signaling molecules, and they're going to have activities very similar to the hormones. So we're kind of saying, well, these are kind of, but not, okay? Once again, though, they're going to be chemical signals. And when we have chemical signals, we associate that with being hormone-like. The difference is these do not travel in the blood. What? They're going to have effects locally, meaning a certain area of the body. Paracrines and autocrines are names that we associate with them. We're going to see this because these two right here, they come into great play with our immune system, okay, and ways that the cells can communicate. These right here, we're going to see them do a lot of work in the blood stream. If something is termed a paracrine, basically it's cells in the same tissue, and the diffusion that's occurring is taking place in the same tissue. Histamine, for example, as spring is going to get here and stuff starts beginning to fly around, histamine gets very active. But what part of the body does that tend to affect? Chewing, blowing the nose, and the eyes running. So we're keeping it here in a particular area of the body. But now histamine can come into play in other areas, just in a different way. If it's autocrine, love this. Stimulates the same cell that secreted it. So if I got a cell that secreted a product actually affects the cell. It's really cool. Keep that in mind. We're going to come back to it when we get into other chapters. Eicosanoids, they're paracrine secretions. One of the things about them is this arachidonic acid, which is part of that omega fatty stuff. Okay, don't get too deep into that. Well, in one way, we're going to see the chemicals and their goal, help with allergic and inflammatory reactions. So we're going to see them with the immune system. The cyclooxygenases, we're going to see these very prevalent with the blood, especially blood clotting. So just remember these because they're going to be coming back to us, okay? And the thing that's left for this chapter are endocrine disorders. There are many. That's why we have an entire field. Every one of these organs can do hypo or hypersecretion. Pituitary disorders as a whole can lead to stuff such as gigantism and dwarfism. Thyroid disorders, I guarantee you'll come across somebody with it, okay, in one way or another. Adrenal disorders, a little more difficult to diagnose, but extremely disruptive to the people that suffer from them. One of the biggest is called Cushing's syndrome, where they are producing excess cortisol, and it's very bad. It usually tends to happen in younger children and so forth, but it can happen in older adults. And then diabetes. I can guarantee you're come across patients with diabetes. We know that there's type 1, type 2. It is a disruption to our carb, fat, and protein metabolism. The classic signs, polyuria, meaning they're urinating a lot. Polydipsia, they're drinking a lot of water. Polyphagia, they're hungry. So these are the classic symptoms. Type 1 is hereditary. It affects those beta cells. Do y'all remember the islets that we talked about in the pancreas? Type 2 is where insulin is not used correctly by the cells of the body. And lifestyle is definitely a major contributor. Usually, people who get diagnosed, if they change their diet, health, lifestyle, that sort of thing, they can actually reverse this a little bit. Diabetes insipidus is what's related to my anti-diuretic hormone. If something goes wrong with ADH, the person has a huge output of urine, and they're losing a lot of their nutrients out from their body, and it can lead to death for them. So they really need to diagnose it, put them on medication to correct it, and they have to pretty much stay on it for the rest of their life. Take a break. Be back at 10:35.